Vice President JD Vance has been meeting with Israel's prime minister and president this morning. He also met with newly freed hostages and their families. The vice president acknowledged there's a, quote, very tough task ahead to disarm Hamas and rebuild Gaza. CBS News senior foreign correspondent Holly Williams is following the latest developments.
The vice president is here in the Middle East to try to push all sides to stick to the fragile ceasefire in Gaza, including Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, with whom he met this morning. Remember, just 3 days ago, Israel briefly resumed its deadly strikes in Gaza, with 45 Palestinians left dead, according to health officials. Israel said it was responding after Hamas militants killed 2 of its soldiers. Yet the vice president says he's optimistic that the truce will hold. He held a press conference last night at a new facility in southern Israel where US troops are monitoring the ceasefire. Vance told reporters, quote, "Things are going, frankly, better than I expected." But after 2 years of devastating war in Gaza, President Trump's peace plan is still in its early stages. So we asked this question. What do you think the likelihood is that it will last long term? If you had to put a number on it, a percentage.
Can I say with 100% certainty that it's going to work? No. But you don't do difficult things by only doing what's 100% certain.
Now, for its part, Hamas says it's still committed to the truce. And last night it returned the bodies of 2 more hostages. But many are skeptical that the group, which is designated a terrorist organization by the US, will ever hand over its weapons as stipulated in the peace plan. And some here in Israel are not convinced that Prime Minister Netanyahu will stick to the agreement either. One of Netanyahu's fiercest critics, a former advisor to several Israeli foreign ministers, told us that Netanyahu agreed to the ceasefire under pressure from the US, but does not want to look as if he failed to defeat Hamas. The Israeli media is reporting that Secretary of State Marco Rubio will also come here later this week. Make no mistake, US officials are working very hard to try to keep the president's peace plan from being derailed. Back to you.
All right, Holly, thank you very much. For more on developments in the Middle East, I want to bring in Ambassador Dennis Ross. He is the counselor and William Davidson Distinguished Fellow at the Washington Institute for Near East Policy. He's also held roles in the Obama, Clinton, and George H.W. Bush administrations. And he's also the author of Statecraft 2.0, What America Needs to Lead in a Multipolar World. Ambassador, thanks so much for joining us, sir. The vice president has acknowledged the very, very tall task that lies ahead in implementing this peace plan. But if already from the jump, Hamas, not only are they not disarming, sir, they're out there in the streets executing any type of viable or perhaps not viable political opponents that they see in the streets for cameras to bear witness to. I mean, isn't that just for starters an incredibly difficult hurdle?
Yeah, absolutely. Because a key to the plan, especially in what's known as phase 2, is the disarmament of Hamas, which is linked to 2 other things. There's no Israeli withdrawal if there isn't disarmament of Hamas, but there's also no reconstruction in Gaza if there's no disarmament of Hamas. Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates have made it very clear they're not about to invest in Gaza if Hamas is still armed and there isn't demilitarization, because they see this happening all over again. So this is a linchpin of the whole approach. And by the way, Hamas is doing what it's doing to be seen, to send a message to Palestinians in Gaza. We're here and we're in control. Don't even think about resisting us, because they're quite unpopular right now in Gaza, given what they brought, in a sense, a war they brought to Gaza.
So what about, and I obviously have no experience in diplomacy, but to me, as a student of history, what would it take to apply pressure on the folks who actually provide the weapons, the arms, the material, the money to Hamas? And I know it may not be easy, but perhaps there's a way for the United States and other Gulf nations to apply pressure on some of the states, whether it's Iran or whether it's people in Qatar, that whoever it is that's supplying Hamas, because once you cut that off, then they slowly die in the vine, right? Or no?
No, I think you're right. I mean, I think the key to this is basically making sure they can't acquire arms, which it really means you have to stop the smuggling. You know, a lot of people used to say about Gaza, because Israel had a quarantine on it, that it was an open-air prison. And for the people who lived there, that was probably true. But for Hamas, it was not. They built 400 miles of tunnels, you know, tons and tons of cement, tons of wiring and metal, everything they would need to build what amounted to an underground city, which kept the surface impoverished. But they were geared towards one thing, which was war with Israel. So if you can cut off the smuggling, and the idea of the temporary international stabilization force is it would go into Gaza and it would have two missions. The most important one would be to be responsible for the crossing points to ensure there isn't smuggling, and the other was to ensure there's law and order and provide protection for the Palestinian public. In answer to your question, I think the key is the following. Turkey and Qatar are committed to the 20 points. Turkey and Qatar have enormous leverage on Hamas. They're key supporters on the outside. Now, Qatar provides money, and it is Iran that has provided material. The fact is, at this point, one should be exposing what Iran is doing. The Iranian public is not happy with the terrible economic conditions they face in the aftermath of the 12-day war they had with Israel. The more you shine a spotlight on this, on their providing material to Hamas at this point, especially given all the investments they made in their proxy network, Hezbollah and the Bashar al-Assad regime, all that's gone. So the more you shine a spotlight on that, the more you're going to produce, I think, opposition within Iran and raise the cost to the Iranians of continuing providing the arms. Given the relationship that Turkey and Qatar have with Hamas, they need to understand that if they want to have a relationship with the United States, and certainly with the Trump administration, they have to deliver on what they committed to and what Hamas said they're also committed to. The only problem here is Hamas has said they won't disarm, but they said they accept the 20 points. Well, if you accept the 20 points, one of those points is disarmament and demilitarization. As I said, that's the key to Israeli withdrawal. That's the key to reconstruction.
Right. And so, again, it would strike me that Vice President Vance or Secretary Rubio would do better by visiting Turkey and visiting Qatar and getting the President of the United States to apply that pressure to Iran, rather than a meeting, although it's, I guess, symbolic, and it's a good thing, I guess, to meet with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. But at the end of the day, if they're not doing that, then in essence, you're essentially giving Hamas the license to continue to do what they're doing now, which will then give Prime Minister Netanyahu license to once again launch military action in Gaza, and now unrestrained, because the hostages have been returned home. In 30 seconds or less, Ambassador.
Yeah, look, the key here is dealing with those who have the leverage on Hamas. It is interesting to me, you have this nonstop stream of visitors, the Vice President, now Secretary of State, going to Israel. I would like to see them in Turkey and like to see them in Doha.
Yeah, you and I seem to be able to figure out, why can't they? Ambassador, always good to talk to you, my friend. Thank you very much. We appreciate you.